Well, the Fantastic Four has been officially rebooted. Now let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition. The Fantastic Four is a 2015 superhero film directed by Josh Trank, and it follows these four people who end up getting these superpowers and not have to save the world. Was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. True that this film had a lot of bad points in it, but there are also just as nearly as many good points. The story, for the most part, serves as a pretty good and interesting origin story about not only about interdimensional travel, but as well as how they can develop their powers, how the government sees them as they're developing their powers. I think as far as them having the origin story, it worked out great. They got their powers and they actually got them in different ways, so it made more sense. The characters, for the most part, are actually pretty good. There isn't really much to them. The film doesn't flesh them out enough, but they're likable. And the film also serves these characters as they're younger, and I think that that's a great approach to building a Fantastic Four series. Now, in terms of visual effects, things are a bit mixed, which I will get to the negatives later on that, but for the most part, alternate dimension as well as the costume designs, I didn't have a problem with. I thought it was actually done pretty well. I know people had an issue with the Johnny Storm design, but I think his design was actually pretty cool, as well as the Ben Grimm when he's the Thing. I really like that design. It looks more badass. Now, we are going to jump down to the things that should have been done better when it comes to this film, because this film is riddled with a whole bunch of negatives, and it just takes away from the experience. There are certain conveniences when it comes to the story that should not be there or should have been addressed in a better way, which I really would have liked for them to just done away with completely, honestly. If you've seen the trailers, you've pretty much seen this movie. There are a little bit things here and there that happen that you do see in the movie that's not in the trailers, but it isn't really much. The trailers pretty much showed everything. Another aspect of the story that should have been done a bit better was the character relationships. There is one point after everybody gets their powers when Reed Richards is separated from the group, there isn't really any interaction between the characters. If you watch for most of the movie, after they get their powers, most of the time they're not together in one room talking or anything. There's really no development as friends with the teamwork or anything like that, and it is disappointing because it takes away from the characters and their dynamic. I know people had an issue with the design of Doom, but I did not have an issue with that because the story supported the way he looked, and as far as his powers and everything, I didn't really think he was overpowered. I actually liked that because it actually warranted 4 people jumping one guy. And it made him a complete threat. I did not mind the Doom aspect, even though there was one point where the CGI and his character was like, ugh, that was kind of bad. The visual effects is another issue. There are so many moments where the visual is just obvious, where you can tell there's a green screen here, or the visual effects are just terrible, and they definitely should have been better prepared for that. It was just gross the way the visuals were in some aspects of the film. This film is definitely a missed opportunity. The director could have definitely done a better job when it comes to this movie. In the end, Fantastic Four might not be a perfect film, might not even be a good film, but it is a decent film to watch, especially have a bit of an open mind. Love the origin story. I did like the casting. I did like the direction that it was supposed to go. Even though the CGI was crap, even though certain elements in the story were crap, even though there was things that could have been done better, such as actually more action. But I have to say, despite that, Fantastic Four, I'd have to give it a 2 out of 5. I would have loved to have bumped it up to at least a 3, but I could not sit there and ignore some of the issues, even though I did enjoy this movie for what it was and what it could have been. Does it deserve a possible sequel if they can capitalize on the mistakes on this one? Certainly. Anyways, guys, in the comment section below, let me know what did you think of the Fantastic Four, and also tell me, do you think this one is better than the previous ones? Do you think the previous ones are better than this one? And what else could they have done better with this? Because we all know it could have been a complete killing had they done it just right, or at least better. Anyways, to the next edition, guys, keep those gears turning.